In this video, we're going to show you how to drive a truck. We've got a 7.5 ton class Ford Cargo here, and I'm looking forward to putting it through its paces. Huge thanks to Simon, who has entrusted us with his mobile home. We'll show you some of the living arrangements as well. But in short, the Ford Cargo was introduced in 1981. It replaced the D series trucks that were hugely popular. But Ford rather lost heart during the lifetime of the Cargo and ended up selling their European truck operations to Iveco, who replaced this with the Euro Cargo. But this truck lived a very long life. It was sold in India for a long time, but it was even sold in America. There's probably American viewers who recognize these trucks. The American Ford Cargo was sold to Freightliner, so a Freightliner and Sterling versions of this truck available, much larger with bigger engines, right through until 2007. So it's a truck that has true global provenance. But this is the smallest of the UK trucks, the 7.5 ton class. It's as small as lorries really get. 5 ton tend to be van derived. So it's got the smallest engine. You could get a 4-cylinder, but this has got the 6.2 litre straight 6 Dover engine. And if you're coming close, we can sort of see it. It has a tilt cab, but because of the body of this former horsebox, you can't tilt the cab. So the engine is there. You can just sort of see it. So that is the Dover lump. It's not a particularly advanced engine. It's not a particularly advanced truck, full stop, although it does have disc brakes all round. So as well as the disc brakes all round, it actually has air over hydraulic brakes. So if you come in closer, we see we've got a conventional hydraulic brake system, but the master cylinder is all the way back here and it's powered by air. Now on a lot of trucks it'll be a full air system, but a little bit cheaper for this cheaper class of truck. But what it's got on the back, the parking brake, is still like a normal truck, which is pure air with a spring. So what happens is, default state, unlike a car, if you don't touch the brake pedal in a car, the brakes are not applied. The parking brake on this is the opposite. If there's no air pressure, then the brakes are locked on solid, and that is your parking brake, and it's also the fail safe. So if the air system goes down, you might lose the foot pedal, but you won't lose the emergency handbrake. In fact, it will just activate if the air vanishes altogether. So that is an aspect of driving a truck that can make them a bit different. It means the pedal can behave a bit more like a hydraulic Citroen. You've got huge power behind it, but you're just releasing a little bit of that power to make the brakes work. But this is slightly different again because it's air-powered hydraulics. By the way, we love that this truck is called Ellie, just like our 2CV. The styling of the cab, I think, is really quite nice. I love how the big orange indicators, the plastic grille, ties it in with the Ford car range at the time, the Escort and Cortina. It's got elements of all that in the styling. And the cab was designed by Patrick Lequemont. He had a fascinating history. He worked on the Sierra and I think the Mark III Escort as well by the time he was at Ford, under Uwe Banson, sorry. But yeah, I think it's a very stylish design. I mean, it's quite simple really, but there's just an elegance to it that I like. I like these deep windows on the side. If you come in, we've got the badge is hidden behind the glass, so no one can nick your badge. So that's safe. But these windows come down, and that means you've got good visibility down to the curb on the passenger side. Enormous mirrors, an essential part of any truck because you've got no over-the-shoulder vision. So you need excellent mirrors. But yeah, I think it's a really nice bit of design. The only thing I don't think is a brilliant bit of design is these little side indicators. I always thought these looked very, very vulnerable. Now this is something we don't always get to do on a road test. We can go into the camper bit at the back here. So if I open the door, and then the stairs are located like so, and in we go into the living quarters. This is very much a work in progress, but this would originally been 2 stalls for 2 horses, and then your living quarters would be through here. And we've got a rather large dog bed on the floor for a rather large dog, Hector. But we've got a sink, we've got a little gas burner here, and your bed is above the cab, so you can travel with your precious horses. So a horse box can be a very suitable vehicle for camper conversions, as long as you can get rid of the smell of horse. And I'm pleased to report
No horse.
no horse, but you can see you can actually get straight through to the cab from here. Your engine access, you can remove a panel here and a panel in the floor to gain some access to it, but obviously not quite as convenient as being able to tip the cab. But yeah, I like this. Tea making facilities in your vehicle. Climbing aboard is a bit more involved than normal, but thankfully there's a grab handle here on the side of the dashboard. Big old step, and up we go. Oh, and once in, we are faced with this enormous steering wheel. Makes the one in a Mark III Transit look tiny. Nice big stalks either side. We got oil pressure over here, coolant temperature, fuel, and then we got the twin tanks of the air system as well as a more modern voltage readout. We've got a tachometer, we've got a rev counter, and then we've got vast arrays of switchgear. Nope, we got blanking plugs ahoy. We've got an internal light, I think, fog light and hazard lights, and that appears to be it. We'll operate the hazards. Oh yeah, the ticking is over there on the passenger side. Mildly distracted by this enormous coach. The coach drivers are giving me evils. They don't like me parking here. We're probably in their way. Light control here, fan there. The heater controls look very like the Mark III Escort, very reminiscent, I think. It's only a 4-speed gearbox in this one, although apparently the 5-speed just gave you a lower first. So 4th is the same as 5th. I like the fact it's been modified the gator with a pair of jeans. We've got the air brake back here, which we lift and then we can move forward, and that'll release the parking brake. And then the pedals are conventional down below. We've got a conventional hydraulic clutch on this one, and then we got the brakes and the throttle. Manually winding windows requires a bit of effort, so I think we'll leave that be. Enormous sun visors, of course, but yeah, it feels quite a nice place to sit. I'm looking forward to getting this bad boy out on the road, and we'll go for a drive. So we'll fire up the big 6-cylinder engine. And as you can see, a fair bit of shudder and vibration on idle, but a very responsive throttle. Really does pick up far quicker than I expected, I think. We've got no seat belts. This vehicle was built about a month or two before seat belts became compulsory in trucks, so it doesn't have them, and it isn't a legal requirement, so that keeps you on your toes, certainly. We'll do a wiper test before we go. Got washers on the blades, and sadly we have got a triangle of doom going on. I wasn't expecting that, and there's something trapped under that wiper blade which is not helping us at all. I may have to deal with that. That is causing great agony. It means I'm now going to get out again. Here we go. Boy, you feel for those multi-drop drivers who are having to get in and out of the cab all day. Oh, that's better. Marvellous. You can just hear that was the air valve cutting off, and that smoothed the engine out. It's no longer having to power the air pump. We've got pressure. So every time I operate the brakes, it takes a bit of air out of the system, and it's the same with the parking brake. So we're going to go for second. We don't need first. First is very, very low. So effectively it's a 3-speed gearbox. We do all around checks, off with a little parking brake, and away we go. Watching the poorly injured seagull. Indicator on. And obviously when you're turning, you just have to be aware that there's quite a lot of truck behind you, although this is quite a short one for a 7.5 tonner. Very long throw on that gear lever. We're having to guess the speed of it. The speedometer has packed up this morning. So I doubt we'll be speeding anyway. This is not a powerful vehicle. I believe it's 126 brake horse and 385 Newton meters of torque. I could be wrong on that though. Actually, this pillar gets right in the way of the mirror for me. So maximum power is produced at only 2,600 RPM. But really, the green on the rev counter, which sadly also seems to have gone a bit hub nut today, is between 1,500 and 2,000 revs. So it doesn't want you to use high revs. It wants to slog away a bit.
Why did you want to drive this specifically?
I wanted to drive a cargo because my dad used to drive a cargo for a living. So as a child, I remember, as a very young child, I remember my dad coming home with a cargo. It was a blue one. I think it just popped out of third. He warned it could do that. Oh, 20 is a bit harder to judge. Over to the left, we've got Palmerston. We did a live stream where we featured the steam railway, and this is the Vale of Rydal Railway, and that is Palmerston, a little engine that's just visiting at the moment. I was hoping they were going to change the lights, but alas, not to be. They're just checking Palmerston over for something by the look of it. And we can get out on the open road a bit more. Open her up a bit. It's a very, very simple engine. I think it's direct injection, no turbocharger, kept as simple as possible. You could get much larger engines because they went up to, I think, 28 tons with these trucks in terms of what they could pull. So there were Cummins engines, Perkins engines. I think the Perkins was the V8. I remember those sounding amazing. And even a Deutz engine was apparently available. So there was a lot of options. Ford bought in all the bigger engines, just using its own Dover engine in the smaller 7.5 ton models. I have no idea what engines they used over in America, so do feel free to let me know in the comments. Ooh, other trucks are a bit scary. And you definitely feel this is on very rustic leaf spring suspension all round. No air suspension here, so it's a bit agricultural. Imagining my dad doing this for hours a day. Now, thanks to a quirk in driver licensing, I can legally drive a 7.5 ton truck, and unfortunately Miss Hubnut cannot. If you pass your test after, I think it was the 31st of January 1997, you have to pass a test to be able to drive this class of truck, which I guess makes sense. But this has been of huge usefulness to me because when I moved to Wales, I hired a 7.5 ton truck. When I collected the Invacars, we did that with a 7.5 ton truck. So yeah, very useful that I am legally allowed to drive such things. So the brakes, you shove the brakes and not an awful lot happens, and then suddenly it all happens. So it takes a bit of getting used to. It seems to go quite nicely, I think. Which is good. I don't want to be seen as one of those people who's driving a horsebox holding everyone up. So Ellie the truck has 321,000 kilometers on the clock. Because it's a tachograph, they're always reading kilometers, but we've got a mile an hour showing as well. Not loving the hills. She'll get up them, but she'll get up them in her own time. But I'm sure there are many of us who have thought, maybe such a vehicle, watch it Mr. DPD, would be useful. Surely we could get a car in the back, have some sleeping quarters, perfect vehicle. The downsides are you're probably looking at about 15 mpg, which is rather high. Plus in other ways, trucks can be quite expensive to keep on the road. And because you sit so high, you get to see over all the fences, you get a lovely view of the world, especially here in Wales on a beautiful day like this. We're now going up Penglice Hill, and poor Ellie's not loving the experience, I don't think. Seven and a half tonners generally don't have the biggest engines, but this is still bigger than the 4-cylinder one you could get. This is a meaty 6. So I'm afraid we are definitely holding back the traffic. Sorry guys, we're going as quick as we can. And this is why on motorways you'll often see the 7.5 tonners having battles with the bigger lorries, because the bigger lorries have got the power usually to get up the big hills, and the 7.5 tonners often don't. So the 7.5 tonners can go along on the flat quite nicely, but they get to a hill and they lose their momentum. But we're into 4th gear now. Keep that speed building. Come on, Ellie. A rather bigger Ellie than what I'm used to, but whatever happened to Project Binky and their Ford Cargo? They had a Ford Cargo X-Mobile library that they were turning into a truck. I was following that project with great interest, but nothing doing. What's going on, Binky guys? It's a bad obsession motorsport. Keeping an eye on the trees, no low branches, but this is a route used by double-deck buses, so we should be alright. So yeah, now we start the long descent down into Aberystwyth. Oh look, Volvo 740. Nice. Let's see what driving a truck's like on crowded town streets. I say crowded, it's not exactly London, is it? In a way, we can kind of do with everyone driving a truck. I think it would be a very useful experience for car drivers to experience what it's like, to experience the blind spots and the difficulties of piloting a larger vehicle, like trying to find second gear.
I'm good, thanks.
Are you sure? Always a van parked here. Probably because there's a furniture shop. But it's just a case of being aware, keeping an eye out, and using your very excellent mirrors. Follow the road round to the left. And just being aware that the rear axle is going to turn a bit tighter than the front, which frankly is something you have to bear in mind when driving my Ford Fairmont from Australia as well. Australia, one of many countries where these trucks were built. Up in Brisbane, I believe. Yeah, you just can't really do anything quickly in a vehicle that is this big and weighs this much. So steady definitely wins the day. So first gear is quite low. That low, in fact. Really do just get yourself moving, which is why you don't really have to bother with it. Just go straight for second. Oh, well, there we are. That was Ellie, the Ford Cargo. Really enjoyed that. That was a very useful insight into what it's like to drive a truck, even though this, by truck standards, is quite a baby one. But yeah, a lovely experience. Huge thanks to Simon for letting us have a go. We hope he's had a lovely day in Aberystwyth. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hubnut store. Don't forget Rustival is coming 28th of September, and we shall see you in a future video. Slowest purchoo ever. Where were you?